Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of Lacombe City Council. It is Monday, June the 9th, precisely on time at 5:30 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. Before you, we have our agendas. Any items that you'd like to see removed from our consent agenda? What's the one word? Seeing none, I will pass it by unanimous consent then. Thank you. And then with respect to the overall agenda, is there any changes or additions required there? Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move we accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. One last chance for input. Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that is unanimously in favor. This evening, we do have an open forum, which is good to see. We've got Ms. Brenda Simon here to speak to us on some solar farm project concerns. So if you care to make your way up to the front here, and you can, if you take introduce yourselves, and just a reminder to please use the microphone for the benefit of those watching online in the gallery behind you. Just push the long bar button at the bottom, and once that light is red, like that, you are live. And just bend it towards you a little bit. Very good. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, City of Lacombe Council members. My name is Brenda Law Simon, and this is Brenda Loden. And we are joining you this evening as members of the Lacombe Concerned Citizens Group, a collective neighboring landowners who have come together to voice our opposition to Reconcept's proposed solar farm project for legal land Southwest 174026 west of 4. We're here tonight to provide each council member with an information package, which I believe has been passed out, which includes a letter outlining my concerns and a series of questions related to the project. This solar development is being proposed approximately 1,000 meters southeast of the city of Lacombe, and we believe it is critical for both council and residents to be informed of this project coming through. At this stage, Reconcept is still in the process of preparing its proposal for submission to the Alberta Utilities Commission. As such, Lacombe Concerned Citizen Group is urging the city of Lacombe to take the opportunity to review its current land use bylaws, policies, and regulations, and to consider any necessary updates and changes well in advance of the AUC application submission by Reconcept. We encourage you to reach out to the Farmers Advocates office as well and search their website. Go under the energy utilities and read the renewable energy section. Darcy Allen with the Farmers Advocate office is also a great resource for information, not only for farmers, but the municipalities as well. His information is attached into your documents. His phone number is 1-780-427-2350, and it's also on top of the Rocky View document in your folders. Our concern is that while the County of Lacombe will benefit the tax revenue from this solar project, the town of Black Falls will gain the electrical capacity for about 5,600 of their homes. The city of Lacombe, despite its close proximity, will bear all the risks, which are significant risks without receiving any direct benefit. These risks can include, and not limited to, the impacts to human and wildlife, health and safety, the environmental concerns, and also your emergency response services, among others. We hope the information shared with you tonight will serve as a catalyst for future research and dialogue and preparation, enabling the city of Lacombe to make informed decisions and advocate effectively on behalf of its residents. This is a significant project with potential short and long-term consequences, and it must be approached with careful consideration and diligence. On behalf of Brenda Loden, Lacombe Concerned Citizens Group, and myself, Brenda Law Simon, we sincerely thank all of you tonight for your time to be able to present this information and to attend the council meeting this evening. We understand your schedules are busy, and we appreciate your time and attention into this matter. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact myself, Brenda Law Simon, or Brenda Loden, or any of us that are a part of the Lacombe Concerned Citizens Group. Our numbers are attached in your folders as well.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I think that some of the people viewing might question why we are having you this evening, to be perfectly honest with you, because the property under consideration does not fall within municipal boundaries of Lacombe. I, however, think it's important for all citizens to be aware of this happening in our immediate proximity. So I want to thank you both for bringing us the information package and doing your part to make sure that as many people are educated as possible on this subject. So thank you for that. And also for being very diligent with your time. That's magnificently.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Did anyone else have anything? Very good. Next up, we are delighted to have our member of the Legislative Assembly for Lacombe Ponoka constituency, Jennifer Johnson, is here with us. You're no stranger to this room. Thank you for joining us again. Just a reminder to please power up your mic. Wonderful. The floor is yours.
Okay, I did mention that it might be a little bit easier to go through a question and answer if that works for you, or do you want me to just give you all the information?
Question and answer would be fine if that's the way you would prefer.
Sure, yeah,
sure,
I would prefer that. What would you like first?
You can go through the list. The previous speaker's time was up. There. That's not for you.
I like question and answer, if you're okay with that.
Sounds good. Great way to proceed. Yeah.
Okay.
You can just go through your list from top down. Actually, if it's okay with you, we've got Councillor Dallas who has something that he'd like to say.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess I'm curious if the question and answer is you were just going to read this or you want us to ask you the questions.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Well, then I'll start with number 5 on your list there with the why, if the province will fund playgrounds on school sites. I guess we've had a couple meetings with a local organization regarding funding requests for some Wolf Creek School playground upgrades, and it's been a conversation back and forth here, and there's been also lots of this is responsibility, this is someone else's responsibility, there's mutual benefit. I guess I'm curious, is there any plans to add additional funding to schools for playgrounds similar to the grant fundings government of Saskatchewan has done, or making it mandatory for school boards to include asset replacement in their budgets? So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor. There's no hard and fast rules about, as you know, school to school to school, and everyone has, it seems, their own plan. So what is in place, as you know, there is the CFEP grant that can be a matching grant that is often instituted through the community, and grassroots often is the one to instigate that. There is a new school playground grant. It is for eligible schools that are being built on a new site exclusively and that don't already have a playground. They're eligible for up to $250,000. And the CFEP grant, coming back to that too, if it's a smaller project, they're eligible for up to $125,000. Large projects are up to $1 million for their larger and more complex projects. And an interesting one is the Alberta Recycling Management Authority. They're offering up to $30,000 to a playground project if they're using recycled materials such as recycled tires. And that would be for the, like instead of dirt or wood chips. If they're using that recycled product, they can get up to $30,000. So that's new. No, we're not looking at the Saskatchewan model at this point. No, there's no new funding for playgrounds. No. Does that answer your question? Anything else on that?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think there's certainly some things that could be encouraged to school boards. I think it's very difficult for you to control someone else's funding, but I think it's important when you are their largest supplier that maybe they should be managing their assets or rules around that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a question regarding healthcare. I was talking to an individual from up at Cold Lake and regarding this and the expansion of nurse practitioners,
Mhm.
similar to what's in Sylvan Lake with the urgent healthcare center there. And the number of people that's taken out of the emergency wards is outstanding.
Mhm.
And I would hope that our provincial government is looking at a way of expanding those types of services.
Agree. And nurse practitioners is, I would say, on the cutting edge for healthcare right now. And I'm going to expand upon that is our pharmacists too. We are finally allowing them to operate within their full scope of practice. So they can diagnose, they can dispense. And this also is taking a massive load off of the system. So if you've got an ear infection, you can go into the pharmacist. If you think you have a UTI, you can go into their diabetic testing, stress testing. There's so many, the list is very, very long. And so our pharmacists are really meeting that demand. It's also, I mean, there's also unintended consequences to that we're trying to address. Now the demand is so huge, it almost is creating a problem. So we're trying to address their issues as well on that. But it is working really well so far. And pharmacists that I've talked to are delighted that they can operate within their scope of practice. And that's what we want. We don't want to hold anybody back from what they can and are capable of doing and what they're trained to do. So that's one. And nurse practitioners is a huge one. And we're adding to that almost every month. We're adding nurse practitioners into the system. They're highly skilled, highly trained. The ones that I have talked to want equal pay to doctors because they say they're doing the same work. The former health minister would argue otherwise. But they are being compensated now and they are being plugged into the system and taking on full patient loads. This is really exciting as well. So we're seeing, nurse practitioners, pharmacists. There's another one I'm missing out on, but it'll come to me. That is starting to fill that gap. Yeah.
Can I continue? Certainly. Thank you for that. The question I would have then is how would we go about getting that type of facility in Lacombe similar to what Sylvan Lake has to take the pressure off our emergency ward, and plus that would also take pressure off of Red Deer?
I'm not going to offer you any hope on that simply because we have a hospital here and Sylvan Lake does not, and they have a greater population than we do. So they got their urgent care came in, I'm going to say 7-8 years ago. It's been that long, something like that. And they were petitioning for a hospital. And so the urgent care was put in there to sort of get them through that gap. And it's worked really well. I'm sure they would still love to have a hospital. There are many communities. I wish I had the number. I think it's less than 20, but it's in that 10 to 20 group that is doing the same model as Sylvan Lake. There's no hospital. Their population is growing massively and very fast. And so urgent care facilities are going in. And so to get one here, I doubt it. I know that it's not even on their radar to get another urgent care clinic in Lacombe.
So I think we can safely say we're all grateful to have a hospital in Lacombe. However, in the last week or 10 days, there has been a couple of closures in our emergency department, open for emergent cases that nurses can help, but obviously staff shortages of some kind. Exactly why I'm not totally certain, but needless to say, there was no doctors available. So the call went out to let us know that it would be closed. Is there anything on the horizon to help offset that type of situation? Because unfortunately, Lacombe is not the only location this occurs in, given the realities of the issues that are going on with healthcare across the nation. What can we do to prevent that in the future?
Excellent question. Because 15 million was just given out to do needs assessments in 18 different hospitals. So 15 million to 18 communities, about 750,000 per community. Lacombe was one of them. So this is going to the hospital to say, what are your greatest needs? And that will come back, I think it's in the fall, and they're going to take that information and hopefully act on it at that point. The 15 million was seed money. And then there's another, I believe it's about 10 million to 30 million that is going to be put back in to hopefully solve those problems that have been identified. So that is a good thing for, we're going in the right direction. I know it doesn't solve the immediate problems, but it's going in the right direction.
It
That
does.
was just announced.
Thank you for that. No, it doesn't in the immediate, but it does
Yeah.
offer, at least offer some hope. So thank you
Yeah.
for that. Councillor Clonic?
The
Oh,
other
sorry.
thing,
No, I think
nurse practitioners, pharmacists, the other one was midwives. And I know that only serves a very small portion of our population, but that was the other part that is, and I have a daughter-in-law who's pregnant and is going to a midwife for care, and that's keeping her out of the doctor's office. So that's another, that was the third component, sorry, it just came to me, that is really helping to take off that load off of our doctor's offices. Yeah.
And that's great to see here with the consolidation of services that have, of
Yeah.
course, losing the option home for that. That's
Yeah.
positive as well. Thank you. Councillor Conick?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Thank you, Emily Johnson, for joining us here this evening. You so graciously joined our last Lacombe Foundation meeting, in which I'm a member.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned some exciting news that the lodge was on the province's radar and the Premier might actually come for a tour. I guess I'm just looking for a follow-up on that, if that's in the cards, if she's going to maybe perhaps come this summer to take a look at the facility, and any other information or updates you can provide on that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. This is really important to me, as I explained there, and I can share with the rest of the room. The Premier has given half an hour of her time between probably 2 months ago and in the coming 2 months to every MLA to see what their needs are in their community. And I was one of the first ones on the list, thank goodness. And she asked me one of her first questions, what are your priorities for Lacombe Ponoka? And I said, number one is the Lacombe Lodge. I think that one is the highest priority. She knew nothing of it, and she is great at asking questions. So, and asked of me, tell me about this. What's up with the Lacombe Lodge? So to tell her that it's one of the oldest in the province, there's almost 100 people there, but the communities of Lacombe and even Blackfalds and expanding around have grown so much that the demand is even higher for that. And this has been years in process to try to replace this lodge. They're looking at different phases. She kind of said, well, this is a no-brainer. We got to get this done. Can I come for a tour? And I just about fell off my seat. I was shocked. Said, you would come for a tour? Like, she's got 1,000 things a month that she could be doing. And she asked if she could come here. So we don't have a date set yet, as you know, that she is going to come. But when she says she's going to, she does. So it may take a few months, but I'm looking forward to her coming here and looking at different options. Between her and I, we tossed around a few of the options. I know I've talked with you about that, Mayor, and she likes the direction it's heading, and even said, well, we need to make this even bigger because we know that our senior population is going from 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 within the next 20 years. So we need to be planning for that proactively. So I'll keep you updated as I'm able.
We certainly appreciate that. And as was outlined at our recent Mid-Sized City Mayor's Caucus in Sylvan Lake, which you were kind enough to attend, along with some other ministers, that contained within the Premier's opening speech was an outline of the rather drastic deficit of appropriate seniors housing.
Yeah. And
was a fairly appropriate time to bring up Lacombe, and she is definitely aware of the situation here. And I want to thank you for that. Just to reiterate on behalf of council, the numbers seem a little skewed to us here, in that with our lodge, there is perhaps a bit of a biased set of numbers there, and that some of the units may not be utilized, but quite frankly, some of them are so substandard that they really, I don't know what would ever cause them to be used. There's rooms without exterior windows. There's rooms, it's just, there's space, but it's not appropriate space, and not something that, it's something we need to address. The sooner the better. I know I'm not telling you anything new, but any chance we can get for the members of the public to know that we're on this is worth the time. So
Agreed.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I know at number 2, for example, it's obviously economic development, trade relations that, the strength of the, how we still need the dependency upon the United States. But at their trade show back in April, there was actually some prominent businesses that are in sales that say they can ship product to the US prior to the tariff issues easier to the States than across our own country because of the provincial lack of, anyways. And I found that really frustrating how, that being, I think there's obviously there's areas to address in interprovincial for making the products travel across Canada with less red tape.
Yeah, again, a really great question. And if you're following federal news in Canada too, you'll know that was on Carney's, the top of his list is talking about these interprovincial trade barriers. It's something I've talked to with our former Jobs, Economy and Trade Minister at length about, because I was getting a lot of emails about this. And there are some interprovincial trade barriers that are beneficial to us and to other provinces, and we want to be careful about those. We can't just open wide open. And some of all things, what really got this conversation going was wine from BC. People were upset they couldn't get their favorite wine from BC. And so then it kind of opened up the conversation about, well, what else is out there that we can't get or that we can't ship? So a lot of those barriers, if I'm correct, are gone. I think that those have opened up for various, not all wine, but a lot of it. And I heard today that even US, Canada, we can get American liquor back in. So if you're a fan of American liquor, that has been lifted. Minister Dale Nally of Service and Red Tape Reduction lifted that, I believe, today, or announced it today, and has taken that into national trade barrier off. So it's always something we're looking at. It's an issue that all the First Ministers of Canada are looking at and talking about. And for what it's worth, Alberta has the least amount of interprovincial trade barriers of any province in Canada. We're the most open. So if there are issues that are coming up, I can't get this, I can't ship this, 9 times out of 10, it's the other provinces that are the problem.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to ask you about, so exploring the options for a municipal ethics commissioner, meeting procedures for councils, as well as we now have the ideas that we wouldn't have a standard code of conduct, which is ironic considering the government is actually the one that told us to put that in place in the first place. So next steps, of course, is consulting with stakeholders. Do you have any more information on what that might look like, timelines on that? Because it is kind of an awkward situation, especially coming into an election for a new council, potentially to not really have these things in place and might be kind of up in the air as to what that might look like. So if you have any additional information on that, that would be appreciated.
I have to answer this one, right? So you're right. It was government that forced municipalities to come up with the code of conduct, and now we're saying now you can't have them. So that is true. It is very tricky, and it is a little bit awkward, to be honest. And it came about. Do you all know why it came about? From another, let's just say another municipality in Alberta that had some issues and was using it as a weapon against each other. And the municipal affairs minister at the time said, this can't happen. We're just going to take the code of conduct out because there's already a Municipal Governance Act code of conduct in place. You know how you're supposed to act according to that. So if it's there, that's good enough for me. And so that's where that has settled. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it lands. Is that enough? Oh, I wish I could offer more on this one. It is a really awkward thing, but it is because of, as you know, from one example that was set in the province that they wanted to avoid in the future. And it was used because of that it was used as a weapon. Unfortunately.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. There's nothing very exciting, but we have a question here about infrastructure and transportation and roads and whatnot. We've traveled a fair bit, and we were just in Ontario and Quebec last week. We've actually got pretty good roads. Just want to say.
I
And
hear the opposite all the time.
but having said that, I mean, we know that it's not something you want to take for granted,
Mhm.
especially with our winters and whatnot. So is there anything that you can update us on in terms of the infrastructure around our city or in the 2A and whatnot going through?
Well, certainly for Lacombe, Pinoka, because we had the east highway here going out of town that was repaved last summer. And Highway 53, sorry, it's for Pinoka, not here, but Highway 53 is getting redone to go by the ag grounds, and they're going to be renaming that street Rodeo Drive, which is really fun and very clever, and redoing that. And so that's really good. I can give you some information that Highway 604 is on the books. That means everything and nothing. So it's in design stage, and I questioned the minister on it in question period so that it would be on the record. And we'll see where that goes. Design stages can fall through the cracks and say, yeah, we looked at it, but it's not going to happen. Or more often than not, they look at it and say, yeah, this needs to be done, because there's a reason it hits design stage. So they would hopefully build that road back up and pave for the first time what was designed back in 2008 when it was put on the books, that we're going to do that whole thing. And as you know, there's still 8 kilometers that are missing. So we're hoping that that gets done. So 604 is on the books out there. Infrastructure as far as just Lacombe, I know that the emergency room department, we talked about that a little bit earlier, is getting a bit of a makeover. So that's good news too. Yeah. What's that? Lacombe Department Emergency. Pinoka got one, and they're expanding their surgical units in Pinoka as well. Yeah. I think it's just a renovation.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I've
Yeah.
probably brought this forward in the past, but as alluding to a bit more forward of Councillor Gullickson's, I still shake my head at how our healthcare system has depended upon second, third world staff. Without them, we'd be completely like unstaffed. Yet we have so many wonderful young individuals in grade 12 that are applying for U of A or college programs that have significantly high marks. They're not accepted into our own institutions. And yet we still bring in foreign nurses and doctors. Like, really, if we didn't have the South African doctors in rural Alberta, we'd be like totally like unstaffed. And very grateful that they're here, but I find that really harsh to our young people that are currently probably in grade 12, want to go to college or university. And I've heard parents say, my daughter had an average of 89%, didn't get accepted. Like, I find that very devastating that we can't have our own Albertan young people want to stay home, but they go to the States and they don't come back. Or I know as a family member, their son's in the States and wants to come back. And they spent over 12 months trying to do the paperwork to get back. Like, that just, I've heard several examples of family members wanting to come home, so to speak, right?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It is an issue, and we do have a new advanced education minister, Miles McDougall from Calgary. So we'll see what he's going to do in this regard. But the former minister, though, has opened up 50 seats for doctors in Grand Prairie and in Lethbridge very strategically, because generally wherever you train is where you stay. So they put them in rural Alberta so that we hopefully keep these doctors in rural Alberta. And there is absolutely a quota for rural students. So this is really good news. And the program's actually not even full. I think I can't remember which one is ahead. They've almost got a bit of a competition, but neither one of them is full. One of them had 38 and one of them had just a little bit less than that. So they're not quite full. But still, we're going to be adding, hopefully by next year, 100 doctors every year of homegrown doctors, which is excellent news. So I think in the last 2 years, we've added 200 doctors to Alberta. That's 100 a year, and that'll be homegrown doctors. And as far as nurses, they are looking at expanding that as well. They've put a little bit of money into it. I think at the U of C, I think the University of Calgary got extra money, or Mount Royal, the nursing program in Calgary, had gotten some extra money for expansion as well. So, and don't quote me on that one, but we're looking to expand these seats, and we're looking into all the trades, expanding on those. Let's get them homegrown. It's a high priority of this government. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up, Counselor. That's, I know we've talked about that before too.
Councillor Hoekstra?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So we have a very vibrant downtown and we're happy to have that. People love to shop downtown, but people still want to park right by the business they're going to downtown. But yet they see that very empty parking lot that's by a building. What is the province's plan with infrastructure that's not being utilized in a way that maybe we would like to utilize it? Is there a plan regarding that spot?
We're talking about the agriculture building, which is full to capacity. They're using every square inch of that building. I don't know if you've had a tour there, any of you? Of the ag building? Yes?
You know, it's been a while for us.
It's
so-
fantastic. So I got a tour, it was over a year ago, and it is just absolutely a world-class technology that's in there and advancing barley specifically, but several other grains as well, but barley's at the top of the list. And we're the world leaders in barley production and research, and it's happening right here in Alberta. It's one of our greatest kept secrets. So that is in the building. I know that the government, because I've talked to the Minister of Infrastructure, has no plans to get rid of that building. They want to keep that. They're leasing it to WCI, which was the former FCDC down the road, and that is doing all the research and the work there. So that building is staying as of today and as of the last time I spoke with the minister, which is about a month ago. But they have firm plans to keep that building. And as far as the parking lot, I have sent the letter on to him. He's got it. And I don't know if you've had a response from him yet or not.
To date, I believe we have not had a response.
Okay. I know I have sent it to him and have spoken with him at length about this. And my understanding was that he is open to that parking lot changing hands.
Okay.
Not the building, but perhaps the
No.
parking lot.
It certainly generated a few smiles around the room. That's good to see because it is a problem
That's
for
not
us.
a yes.
No,
But it was a, we will look at this because this is a possibility.
but it's not a no.
And I said, well, I did ask the former infrastructure minister, what are the chances of government selling off any of their assets? He said just about zero. So, you know, it doesn't mean, that means everything and nothing, right? The current infrastructure minister assured me that it was something worth looking at,
We have done it.
and they've got the letter.
We have done it in Lacombe in the past, so I would say it's less than zero.
It's not zero.
No. Or I'm sorry,
Just
greater
not-
than zero,
just
Heather,
very-
yes. Yeah,
Very unlikely.
less than zero wouldn't be
Yeah.
wonderful, no.
I know of a couple other pieces I suggested that could be sold as well, and we'll see which kind of ears they fall on.
Does anyone have any other questions? Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So a little random, because
Sure.
we had the presentation, I guess I wondered if you could speak to us about the whole green energy and how your government feels about green energy and when it takes up agricultural land. It's not our zone. We don't actually have anything to do with that. I just want to be sure about that, but I wouldn't mind hearing publicly about what your response would be to agriculture land versus solar farm versus green energy, that sort of thing.
Sure, thank you, Councillor. I'll try to go from a few different angles first. The Premier wants Alberta to be the leader, not just in Canada, but internationally. And when she says that, she means it in every way. So not just oil and gas, but also in alternative energy. And currently, Alberta has more alternative energy than any other province in Canada for solar and wind and several other sources. So I'll just leave that there, not put a judgment on that. I have advocated fiercely, as many of you know, and have seen my in question period, to preserve agricultural land. And I do believe this government also takes that stand, but I say until every rooftop and every parking lot is covered, we shouldn't be putting this on any agricultural piece of property anywhere. We feed the world and we need to protect that very, very carefully. And so I'm advocating for this piece that we heard about tonight. And I would rather see wheat or barley or canola or anything else growing there rather than just grass underneath some panels. And believe me, I'm pro solar. I am. We've looked at solar projects for our farm. They couldn't go on the roof, so they didn't go in at all. I love it. I love the idea of it, but we've got to do it responsibly. And I know I would say the government has that stand too. We just have to treat it responsibly. Yeah, and be world leaders in everything.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just have some concerns of when options are looked at as efficiencies, like numbers are very, I love it that it's kind of more black and white, but to actually have the return with the investment, and I kind of look at like at solar and wind, and I drive around the province and see the amount of investment per windmill, and I've stopped by installations and nobody's got the information on the return of or the, you know, like versus, and you see natural gas is one of the most cleanest energies, and yet you don't hear of it being under exploration or utilized when it's a resource just of it more easily available. It doesn't take up land, and it's not I don't know. I kind of look at it frustrating in the ways. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the stand that Premier has taken too, especially with the new Prime Minister. She's made 9 demands to him. If you've been watching that, and one of them is like, we've got to get rid of the oil production cap that he's put an emissions cap on Alberta oil and gas, and essentially that's a production cap. We know this to be true, and there's the oil tanker ban, and the no more pipelines bill. Those have got to go. And along with so many others. Those are just a few examples, and she's been fighting hard for it. And we'll see. She's kind of said, let's see what these next 6 months are. And we kind of do have to, so far, he looks like he's being cooperative and wanting to work with Alberta. Let's see where we're at in 6 months. I agree with you though. Drill, baby, drill.
We certainly appreciate you answering questions on a variety of topics. Is there anything that you would care to wrap up with? We want to be respectful of your time, so.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that, drill, baby, drill, but we have to have the pipelines to do it. And that is one of the number 1 priorities of this government right now, is we've got to get these pipelines to Tidewater, east, west, and north. We've got to go to every single one of them. And so that's what I know the Premier is really pushing for that. We've got to get every single one of these built. And the premiers across the province, even Manitoba, is starting to wake up and saying, we've got to do this. So the relationship building that has been happening, the diplomacy that she has brought to the table is paying off, we think, and we hope it continues to. And I want to thank each of you for what you're doing. Municipal elections are coming up. I wish you all the best in whatever choices you make, whether it's to run again and to serve your city, or to move on into new endeavors. I just wish you the best in whatever choices you're making, and really support all of you. And I really enjoy working with all of you too.
Certainly appreciate that. I think that Councillor Gullickson had one final question, if you have time for it.
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
It's actually in regards to this same topic regarding these data centers
Yeah.
potentially coming here,
Mhm.
and the ability for Alberta to provide lower cost electricity potentially with our natural gas and meet the needs of these centers. Is there any thought of adding to our production or our capacity on the electrical side?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love this question. So the AI, are you talking the AI centers, the data centers that are looking at Grand Prairie? Actually, because there's a great river source there that could provide power, and they're looking at Grand Prairie too because AI demands so much energy and it runs hot, and it takes a lot of energy to cool down everything that's needed in the process. And so we've got the cold weather in Canada. So they're looking at Canada for that reason. Grand Prairie, because of the great water source and because of the natural gas source up there, they could have it all self-contained. And it's a $50 billion project. There's no shovels in the ground, but there's definitely a lot of talks. As Kevin O'Leary, he's been very public about it, about bringing this project to Grand Prairie, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm not sure what I think about AI. It doesn't really matter, but it's not going away. And so, and some of the talk I've heard, and maybe they have a point to it, maybe it's valid, is that AI is not going anywhere. So we need to bring competition to make sure that it's regulated and that it's not just owned by China. I don't know.
Thank you once again. We appreciate your time
Yeah.
coming to visit us, and
Welcome.
hopefully we'll be able to see you here one more time.
Yeah.
Prior to October.
Perhaps, yes.
All right.
Thank you. Enjoy the Oilers game tonight, right?
Yes. Thank you. So item 4.2 on our agenda is the Pan Continental Curling Club update. And it looks like we've got a group of qualified individuals here to speak to us. I'll just let you introduce yourselves. Once again, just ensure that the microphone is on there with the red light. There you go. The floor is yours.
Sounds good. Thank you, counselors, for having us. My name is Chantel Bowman. I am one of the co-chairs that hosted the Pan Continental, and I'm also the Lacombe Curling Club president.
Peter Villers, one of the co-chairs as well, and a board member of the curling club now.
Yes. So as you all know, we hosted the Pan Continental in the fall at the Gary Mo Sportsplex. Does that work? There we go. So for some of you who were not able to attend the actual event, from October 27th to November 2nd, we hosted what was actually the largest event that World Curling produces in a year in that facility under one roof. We didn't quite realize that when we took on the project, but we essentially hosted the largest curling event in the world in Lacombe. We hosted 36 teams in 2 divisions, and they were competing from 21 countries. There were 16 teams in the A division, which were our regular competition teams on the World Curling Tour, and then 20 teams in the B division, which were mainly from countries who are not regular curling countries, but are trying to get a foothold in the sport and get into it at a more competitive level. So the event was essentially a place for camaraderie and skill development and friendship and letting it all flourish and bringing communities together. This was a joint event, not only in the curling world, but also within the local community. We, as a committee, worked to engage with as many businesses and groups from around town as we could, giving them lots of opportunities to be a part if possible. We also had other curling clubs send members to help support the event as well to make sure that it ran as well as it could. So in the presentation, I have tried to include as many pictures from the actual event as I could. So this was the transition of the hockey arena into the curling sheets. It took 4.5 days to transition it. Sunday night, we took over the arena, and by Thursday, we were practicing on it. Some of our local curling club members got to throw stones on it to let the ice makers see what it was doing, which was very, very neat. So to work the event, we brought in 40 contract personnel with World Curling officials, various people to come in and work the events. They were in hotel rooms in different places around town. Then we also had local volunteers, contractors, and of course the facility staff working with us to put on the event as well. Some of the contract personnel, they all came from around the world. So we had people from Scotland, Europe, the States, all over coming to help put on this event. Some of them have even been past world champions, and we actually had the top ice maker in the world come and do the ice here, and 2 of the other like very high-end ice makers in the world, and all of them came away saying that you guys have an amazing facility to work with, and they said this is probably one of the easiest we've had to put on. They were very, very impressed. So during every draw of the event, there were between 8 to 9 games being played at the same time. And 1 game from every draw was streamed on the World Curling TV platform, somewhere for anyone to access around the world. Many were streaming it in Korea and Japan and China, watching their teams playing. So we had a huge amount of businesses supporting from all over. We work with some other local distilleries and our local liquor companies to bring in some very neat options for the events. We're also working with our regular curling partners. So not just World Curling, but Curl Canada, Curling Alberta, you guys, the Lacombe Regional Group, along with all of the businesses to make this event happen. So we as a main organizing committee, there was 11 of us on the committee with 3 of us in the chair position sharing it, overseeing different areas. We had the support of the staff and over 200 volunteers to put on the event. World Curling said that's the biggest task force that they've ever had to put on an event. We actually ran out of lanyards for volunteers and had to purchase some last minute to make sure everyone had their credentials. When we tallied it up, and this is still just a very rough ballpark number, we figured out that there was well over 10,000 hours of just volunteer work put into this event between the host committee and the task force during the event itself. We also wanted to just do a quick thank you to all the amazing city staff for all of the hours and the time that they put into helping us make sure it was a success. So Sherry, Tracy, David, Brad, Guy, they were definitely major resources that we asked for help with, and we're very grateful for them. And of course, thank you to you as a council for supporting the events and helping us make it happen. Just a few quick pictures of different times around the events, highlights of it happening. Some of our very cool moments that I think we got to come away from the event were there ended up being a long-term fan of Rachel Holman's who they originally lived in the community where she grew up and who ended up being in hospice care here in Lacombe. And his wife was actually swimming at the aquatic center the morning that we started and learned that the event was happening and they were there. And upon learning that we had accessibility options for them to come and view the game and watch her in person, she arranged within about an hour to get transfer him over there. And when we learned that that was happening, we talked with the Team Canada coaches and the girls all came up after the game and actually met them in person. So that was a very sweet moment that we could bring to the community. We heard of, I don't think any of us on the committee got to witness it, but we heard of many teams from more the B side, but they met up at Ugly's Pub and Grill for karaoke. And we heard they actually changed their karaoke night so that the teams could all attend if they wanted to, because we had the wrap-up social plan for their regular night. So we heard it was quite the place to be. The wind-up social, we got to see teams dress up in some of their regular cultural dress and share very special moments with each other. And we worked with Millie Oak to do the catering for the wind-up social. And Derek actually put together a menu of appetizer dishes with dishes from various cultures and countries that were directly involved with the event so that they could each experience their own or various cultures that they were with. And our volunteers essentially had to finally say at the end of the night, you have to go. we have to close up. You can't stay. And they're like, really? But we don't want to go. So it was a great event. We also got to see a father and son in the previous slide, both get to dress up. The father is an RCMP officer and they have a small uniform for his son, and they got to march the teams out together in full dress, which is very neat. On the bottom left right now in the picture, the Parkland special needs class also got to attend and experience being out on the curling ice alongside. So letting some kids who might not otherwise get to right beyond that ice level and experience it. We had some volunteers even come on to the team who are not curlers. One of the individuals, I believe, had been in the community less than a year. She didn't really know anybody, and she was actually one of our front ticket ladies. And she came away with 3 or 4 amazing friends. She came out for our volunteer appreciation here in March, and they traveled together and they said it's just been amazing getting to know each other. We had some really fun moments. The officials on both sides for Halloween dressed up in the background when they weren't required to be on the ice. They had Halloween costumes and they decorated the offices from stuff that they found around town. So it was really neat to see that camaraderie in the background. We also heard many times, there was, by the sounds of it, lots of oodles of chocolate went home in suitcases as goodbye presents for different people. There was 2 officials I overheard exchanging and they go, "Which one did you get me?" And they went, "Salted caramel." And they're like, "Perfect, that's what I got you." So there was plenty of businesses that everyone greatly enjoyed. I know the one hotel staff that I got to visit with personally told me many stories of they got nightly highlights as everyone was coming into the hotels, and they had a ton of fun. And in the entranceway, down in the bottom, if you weren't in attendance, we did get other groups the opportunities to come in and do pop-up booths. So they did food and goodies. I believe the skating club took it up with us, and Tollers also came in and brought in goodies that people could purchase if they wanted as well. So we tried to work with other groups who we may be displaced with the event to potentially grow with the event as well. So overall, it was amazing positive feedback from everyone involved. The teams all said that this was the most fun edition of the event that's happened thus far. So we were the 3rd committee to host this event. The club received at the end a signed women's Team USA jersey and a signed women's Team Canada jacket, along with a plaque of recognition. We're planning to put this in a nice frame and such and hang it in the club as a remembrance of the events and everything it's been. We're also going to be creating a sponsor recognition signage for out on our ice surface as well to acknowledge everyone who was a part of the event. Probably the part you guys want to hear. Overall, the event turned a profit of $121,643. Once we realized where we sat, we decided to give back the full amount of the Echo Lacombe money that was given to us as a seed so that it could be reinvested in the community into another event and opportunity. So with that, that leaves the curling club with a total profit from the event of $81,643. We ended up, I know it was a huge part of the initial discussions, so we ended up not paying anything in profit sharing to World Curling with the agreement that was in place. And a really sweet win that we just recently confirmed is that 6 teams that competed at the 2024 Pan-Continental Curling Championships here have now qualified to compete at the Olympics, thanks to their participation in the event that happened here. And strictly because of them qualifying for the World Championships from their placings at this event. So I've been told that they've referenced it many times in interviews that they've been asked since qualifying for the Olympics, that they were very grateful for the opportunity here. And we've already been slightly talking, and we're looking forward to working with the curling associations for in the future, whether it's provincial, national, or with the World Group again, of hopefully hosting more events here in the city that benefits everybody. That's it.
I'd just like to also, again, thank City Council and the city for all their input in this event. Without your participation, it wouldn't have been possible. And yeah, just thanks again.
Well, thank you both. I don't think there's any question this has had a very positive impact in our community, not only from the local businesses and whatnot. I heard from people that have watched games in Europe and Mexico and all over the place, and I thought it was pretty great to see Lacombe being showcased with the little vignettes that were done with it and whatnot. And for you to put on a world-class event like this and to actually turn a profit, which I think everybody hopes that'll happen, but given some of the past performances in other communities, that really has not, I would say, is not necessarily the case. So kudos to all of the committee and the myriad of volunteers he had. It was a fun event and did showcase Lacombe especially well. So thank you so very much. I don't think it's any surprise to say that you had a fairly, I would say, rabid supporter in Councillor Gullickson, who spoke very well on your behalf. And I think that we certainly need to thank him for being a pretty good spokesperson and pursuing as much support as he could possibly muster here as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Councillor Gullickson.
I think
Who's first? Okay.
Oh, me first. Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd just like to say thank you very much to your committee. What an outstanding job, considering you got this on such short notice. I believe March, correct, is when you really got fired up, or February?
May probably by the time. it
Yeah,
started,
but I
yeah.
mean, March is when you found out about it. Outstanding, because it's such short notice. You really, to put on this event, and really of this quality, you should have 2 years probably in advance. And your committee and everybody that was on it, the gentleman at the back worked really hard also. And I appreciate everything you did, because it made it work. And thank you again.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, just similar to what Councillor Gullickson said, thank you. And regarding the timeline for putting this together, incredible. I remember the 2019 Canada Winter Games in Red Deer, and I remember starting on that like 3 years before. And so congratulations. And then I really enjoyed it. I was grateful to attend, and I couldn't believe the amount of volunteers, and I was really pleased with the support. And what I'm really pleased with is just being good community members and returning seed money back to Echo Lacombe so that other organizations can benefit from that as well. And so thank you for being responsible and good community members with that. So I think the town was, you know, everything feels a little more electric when there's something going on. We were just referencing there was some ball tournaments and soccer tournaments going on this weekend. And when there's that many extra people in the community, and it just feels really nice. And so thank you for showing that it can be done and that it can be done properly. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll keep it brief just because Councillor Dallas did touch a little bit on what I was going to say. So as a member of the Echo Lacombe Association board, definitely was a hot topic when it was first brought to us. We knew how much pressure you guys were under, and it was really important to show the community that we believed in this project, that it could be something economic for our community, and that you just needed that first initial investment. So we're really proud that we were able to do that with you. And also, again, really grateful to echo what was said earlier about being able to have that back again so that we could do it again and invest in some other community endeavors. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your guys' support and in us to start it.
Appreciate you too. We've got two patient ladies at the back of the room there. Danny DeCross, Chair of our Chamber of Commerce, and Wendy Beyer, the Executive Director, here to talk about support for the 2025 CCA Summit. Whenever you're ready to go, just remind you to turn your microphone on, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you for having us today. My name is Wendy Beyer. I'm the Executive Director of the Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce. Please forgive me, I'll be using my notes. I'm here today to talk about an exciting opportunity. Our chamber has been selected to host the 2025 Chamber of Commerce Executives of Alberta Summit, and we're here to ask for the City of Lacombe's support in making it a success. I'm sorry. The Lacombe and District Chamber of Commerce has been a pillar of the local business community for over a century. We support over 280 businesses through advocacy programs and promotion. And we work closely with our partners across the region to create a stronger, more connected business environment. We believe that economic development is a team effort, and that's why regional collaboration like what we're discussing today is so important. Over the past year, our chamber has been evolving, strengthening its role in advocacy, expanding programming, and reinforcing a value of collaboration. Our mission reflects who we are at our core, a collective voice advocating growth and prosperity, and our vision points to where we're headed. The Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce provides advocacy, member services, and networking opportunities which contribute to a sustainable, positive impact on local economy. When I stepped into the role just over a year ago, I knew there was going to be a lot for me to learn. Luckily, I've been able to lean on the guidance of the Alberta Chamber of Commerce and the insight of our local members and community partners. We've held strong to the cornerstone events like the Business Awards Gala and the Lacombe Trade Show and Marketplace, but we've also focused on growth, introducing new programming and benefits that respond to what our members need today. That includes new initiatives like member spotlights, monthly small business breakfasts, and a refreshed chamber business newsletter. We're excited to share that we've expanded our reach by integrating the Blackfalds Chamber of Commerce into our organization, bringing on 80 new members and growing our network. We've restructured our opportunities for promotion, advertising, and now also offer access to a boardroom space. These steps have all helped build momentum, and that's what we hope to carry forward with the 2025 CCEA Summit. The Chamber of Commerce Executives of Alberta Summit is an annual provincial event bringing together chamber leaders from across Alberta. Currently, we're expecting 50+ Executive of Alberta directors to attend right here in Lacombe. The CCEA Summit will focus on key topics like leadership, strategy, and advocacy. We'll also share best practices, strengthen our province-wide network, and bring fresh ideas back to our local communities. Hosting this event is more than just an initiative for the Chamber. It's a community-wide opportunity. The summit will bring professionals and visitors into our region, offer exposure for local businesses, and strengthen our collective voice across Alberta, giving us an opportunity to showcase what we have to offer in our wonderful region for these professionals to take back to their region and tell others about. And of course, increasing our economic footprint for future years. Hosting the CCEA is more than just a great event. It's a direct investment in Lacombe's local economy and visibility. We're expecting 50+ delegates, all of whom will stay locally, dine at our restaurants, and explore our community. Based on conservative estimates, this event will generate $30,000 in direct spending on accommodations, meals, and event activities alone. An additional $18,000 in shopping and incidental spending, assuming just $100 a day per delegate over the 3 days. That's a total of nearly $50,000 on our local, infused into our local economy in just 3 days, not including long-term benefits from increased exposure and repeat visits. Just as importantly, the summit puts the city of Lacombe on the provincial stage. Delegates leave with stories, photos, and impressions of our community, influencing word-of-mouth promotion, future travel, and even business investments. It's not just a return in dollars, it's a lasting impact on how Lacombe is perceived across Alberta. I'm here today to respectfully request the City of Lacombe's support in a financial contribution to help offset hosting costs. We're requesting a $5,000 contribution from the City of Lacombe in support of this impactful and high-profile event. These funds will help support key elements of the summit experience, including providing shuttle services to encourage the delegates to explore the downtown businesses, It will also help cover the cost of 2 catered dinners that highlight Lacomb's warm hospitality and culinary talents. Additionally, the contribution will support heritage experience such as the mural and ghost tours, offering delegates a chance to appreciate the city's rich culture and charm. Your support ensures delegates experience the best of Lacombe, boosting visibility, tourism, and local pride. Secondly, we'd be honored to invite and have Mayor Creasy deliver greetings on behalf of the city at the opening of the event. We would be grateful for your collaboration to make this event successful. We are proud to have already secured strong partners, including Berman University, Blind Man Brewing, Alberta Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber of Commerce Benefits Plan. Their support reflects shared belief in the value of bringing the CCEA Summit to Lacombe. With the city's support, we can continue to build on this momentum and elevate Lacombe's profile across Alberta, showcasing our community as a leader in collaboration, innovation, and hospitality. We believe in meaningful recognition that not only says thank you, but also publicly celebrates your leadership and investment in our community. The city's support will be acknowledged verbally and visually throughout the summit, including during opening and closing remarks, printed materials, digital agendas, event programs and signage, social media promotions before, during, and after the event. This repeated recognition reinforces the city's commitment to community and economic leadership. As a valued supporter, the City of Lacombe will be invited to deliver a short welcome and presentation to the Chamber's executives from across Alberta. This is a unique platform to showcase the city's initiatives, strengths, and vision, building awareness and pride among a highly engaged audience of community leaders. The CCEA is a unique opportunity to showcase Lacombe's leadership, hospitality, and economic potential to chamber professionals from across Alberta. With your support, we'll create memorable experiences, strengthen regional partnerships, and shine a spotlight on everything that makes our community exceptional. Thank you for your time and your ongoing partnership. We'd love to have the city support in making the CCEA Summit a success, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that. Looks like our CEO has something to say there.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So normally with a presentation, we would recommend that you ask us to bring back an RFD with more information that you might look to have to make your decision. Tonight, the timeline is short. July 9th is the beginning of the meetings. And so if you're interested and want to provide direction, that's certainly something we're open to this evening, rather than letting it, I think for the presenter's sake, it is difficult to plan the event with such a big unknown still out there. And so we would encourage you to consider making direction this evening if you're able. Normally, a request like this would be suitable for the Community Builder Fund, but the next intake isn't until September. So again, the timing isn't ideal.
Appreciate that clarification. CEO Gowdy. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess a couple of questions were answered by CEO Gowdy pertaining to Community Builder Fund, which I'm sure the applicants were aware of prior as your history on committees. I guess the next question is, obviously, from the sounds of short notice, all the respect to the Best Western, but why not use, if we're a sponsor, why not use the LMC? I guess that was kind of a concern as well. Obviously, maybe it wasn't available, but if we're sponsoring it, it should be, in my mind, I thought, why aren't we, is it downtown more? Thank you.
The CCEA typically runs the events, the hotel and the conference in the same location. So it's just typically run that way.
The gala, the first evening, will be at the LMC. We're going to participate in Music in the Park after that and try to get them connected to the downtown core. Also, it's the week leading right up to Lacombe Days. So there's going to be a lot of planning and probably a little bit limited in space for them to have been able to facilitate it there.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Casey. I guess that was going to be one of my questions there was there going to be additional in-kind asks on top of this? But that sounds good. I appreciate that answer. And the city does not provide direct financial contributions to the Lacombe and District Chamber of Commerce outside of this ask on a yearly basis. That's correct?
Not currently.
Okay, thank you. And so I think I see.
CEO Gowdy.
Not direct cash, but there is guaranteed free use of facilities and that is not insignificant. So the entire trade show, for example, using the arena, that's covered through the city's support of the chamber.
Okay.
So there's not direct cash, but there is contributions in kind.
Great, thank you. I guess, yeah, we've seen one group that came in and said they were bringing people into the community, and then I spoke on the ball tournament and the soccer tournament and just how important it is to have people in the community. I am willing to support the ask for $5,000, and I would be willing to. Do we have to make a motion, or is it okay that I'd be willing to make a motion to support the Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce for $5,000? Yeah.
CEO Gowdy.
So we do have a suggested motion if I finish typing it really quick here.
Yeah.
That will do exactly what I think you want. And so if maybe Denise will read this when I send it.
So while they're doing that, I'll just finish. And yeah, as mentioned, it is the lead up to Lacombe Days, with July 11th being the end of your event, and then July 11th starting Lacombe Days. So hopefully maybe some people want to spend an extra day or two here and bring their family, and we can get some more people spending in the community. So thank you.
They'll be driving home right in the middle of barbecues.
Coordinator Bellabono.
The recommended wording for your motion, if you can approve it, is that council direct administration to finalize a sponsorship arrangement with the Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce for the upcoming CCEA Professional Development Summit.
Yes, thank you. That motion sounds excellent. I won't be able to repeat it immediately, though. Thank you.
I knew that was exactly what you meant. Yeah. Very good. So we're all clear on that ask then. Okay. Councillor Konik.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Just for my own clarification, you said you were selected for this conference. Did that mean you put your name in to be, or okay, so it wasn't just a random, you guys are, just wanted, that's what I thought, but I wanted to.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm on the board, so this is exciting for me too. One of the exciting things that really didn't come up much was Black Falls joining Lacombe. And I really think that this is a real positive for this organization, and look forward to future events. Hopefully Black Falls, the community, will be involved in others in the future, and we can do it jointly as Town of Black Falls and the City of Lacombe to support the chamber in future events. But I also will support this. I think it's important to showcase this, our community, through these leaders that are coming from all over the province. So thank you for that.
Anyone else? I'm hoping that no one wants Councillor Dawes to reread his motion. I think we're all clear on the ask and the motion before us. So please proceed to vote. And that is supported unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good luck with your event. I'm sure it'll be an overwhelming success. Coordinator Vaughn, it looks like you're up next. Give you an opportunity to organize your paperwork there. Under request for decision, item 5.1 is the 2025 public engagement strategy. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. I said coordinator Vaughn. I should have said communications coordinator Vaughn would be a more appropriate title.
It's the communications and community engagement coordinator. There's some more words in there. But well, thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today regarding the evaluation of our communications and engagement practices. This report is provided in response to a February 10th notice of motion from Council, which stated that Council direct administration to bring forward improved methods of communication to transparently and effectively share city initiatives / information to the public. The three key elements of the strategy being traditional media, social media / email, and public signage. In response, administration has undertaken a review of our current methods of communication with a focus on efficiency and effectiveness in sharing information with the public. This review was also informed by the Recreation and Culture Master Plan and the Social Needs Assessment and Priorities Report, pardon me. A key point from the Recreation and Culture Master Plan is that it is recommended that the city develop a recreation and culture specific communications plan based on the template presented in Appendix B. The communication / communication plan about the recreation and culture opportunities must not be limited to events and activities solely provided by the city. Partnerships between organizations to provide programs and communities should be included in this process. Administration also considered the Social Needs Assessment and Priorities Report, in which states the City of Lacombe, in collaboration with key partners, should position itself as a central hub for information. This requires providing accurate and timely information and serving as a neutral broker, collecting and sharing knowledge from various organizations. By leading efforts to establish mechanisms for gathering and maintaining relevant information, the city can improve access to reliable resources for everyone. Both documents emphasize the necessity for enhanced communication regarding city services, programming, events, and other vital information. In response to these directives, administration conducted a survey to gather feedback from council members, managers, and senior administration on the effectiveness of our current communication methods. The survey, which ran through May 2025, was an optional exercise designed to gather valuable feedback on our current communication practices. The survey invited respondents to share their personal experiences and insights regarding the city's methods and approaches to communications, community engagement, and marketing. By doing so, administration aimed to identify areas of strength and opportunities for improvement in how the city connects with the community. The survey results reveal varied perceptions regarding how effective communications align with council members' expectations. Notably, 100% of council respondents acknowledged that communication about initiatives sometimes met expectations. 100% of respondents showed event communications often met expectations. Program communication showed 25% responding that they rarely met expectations, another 25% responding they often met expectations, and 50% responding they sometimes met expectations. Similarly, communications related to projects exhibit a comparable distribution, with 25% indicating communications rarely met expectations, 25% responding communications often did, and 50% saying communications sometimes met expectations. 75% of respondents reported that the frequency and the tone of city communications often met expectations, while quality saw an even split between sometimes and often meeting expectations. With regard to the duration of communications, 50% responded with sometimes, while 25% responded with often and not sure, respectively. For target audience, 50% responded with not sure, while 25% responded with both sometimes and rarely. The survey additionally included rating various communication tactics based on their effectiveness and efficiency. Respondents were asked to select effective, not effective, or unsure. Each respondent was assigned a numerical score between 0 and 1, with 0 equaling not effective and 1 equaling effective. Responses of unsure were removed from the data set. The average of all response was calculated and plotted from low efficiency to high efficiency and from low effectiveness to high effectiveness. The results of this evaluation help guide the use of different communication strategies going forward. This is the plotted information from the council results. Quadrant 1, as you can see, are high efficiency, low effectiveness tactics. These tactics should be minimized due to their low effectiveness. However, their efficiency allows them to be utilized due to their minimal budget and staff impacts. Quadrant 2 are high efficiency, high effectiveness tactics. These tactics should be prioritized whenever possible as they provide the best balance of efficiency and effectiveness. You may have noticed that the majority of council response plotted ended up in this high efficiency, high effective quadrant. Quadrant 3 are low efficiency, low effectiveness tactics. The city should minimize the use of these tactics to ensure resources are not wasted on methods that do not yield significant results. Finally, Quadrant 4 are low efficiency, high effectiveness tactics. These tactics should be reserved for high priority items where budget allows. Despite their lower efficiency, their high effectiveness makes them valuable for more critical communications. And these are the results from the administration survey. As you can see, it had a similar distribution with many of those same tactics falling under high efficiency and high effectiveness. This is a summary of what the quadrants represented, respectively. The feedback from the survey, which is also available as an attachment in your agenda package, has been invaluable in identifying areas for improvement, and it has guided the development of 3 key next steps for consideration. The first is a signage inventory and review process. Should this project proceed, administration will create an inventory of current practices and standards related to cost, location, duration, size, application, and purpose of signage. The review process would also include a review of the approaches used by municipal comparators, potential budget impacts, and emerging departmental needs. The inventory and review would be brought back to council at a future committee of the whole meeting for further discussion. Secondly, administration proposes a revision and update to the city's public consultation policy used by the Planning and Development Department. This policy is recommended for a full review and update given that it is over 15 years old. Any updates would reflect current best practices and tools, including but not limited to the use of traditional media and social media as needed. Thirdly, administration proposes the introduction of a community connector platform, which would be a digital tool designed to facilitate better communication between the city and its residents. This platform would provide a centralized location for accessing information about city services, as well as community services, events, initiatives, and would encourage active community participation. The community connector would be presented at a future meeting for council's consideration. Administration has provided these 3 potential actions to help improve communications. However, there may be other initiatives or actions that council may choose to consider this evening. Tonight, administration would recommend council approve the following 3 motions. The council directs administration to bring forward a signage inventory and review for council's consideration. That council directs administration to prepare an updated planning and development public consultation policy for council's consideration. And council directs administration to bring forward the introduction of a community connector platform for council's consideration. Thank you for allowing administration to present this evaluation this evening. We are now available to respond to any questions you may have.
Thanks, Coordinator Vaughn. Councilor Ross, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think unfortunately we always will receive some scrutiny for maybe from some individuals as where's the information, but I've repeatedly stood up for administration, just call and ask. The biggest thing in life is to ask the question, but I still kind of wonder where's the value in the old traditional paper, newspaper anymore, because I'd really like to be interesting to know what is the circulation and how many people are actually looking in the Lacombe Express anymore, when it's a significant cost and time to have that, to and yourself and other administration, I'm sure, members of trying to get that information together. I don't visually see it around the community anymore, and it's a lot of time and effort and cost. But I guess it's one of those options. I don't know. I guess one question would be, is it an obligation still through planning and development to participate in the newspaper format that people have to, you try to cover all the most options to have people informed, I guess, when there's a planning and development application and it's already covered in a certain distance, that those affected are notified by direct letter in the first place.
Mayor Creasy, may I?
Certainly, before you do so, the Director Hackett did have some input on that specific question, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yes, I was going to respond to Councillor Ross's question. In terms of whether it's an obligation to advertise in the newspaper, use the newspaper for certain planning applications, the Municipal Government Act does require advertising of a public hearing for at least twice within a certain time frame before the public hearing. There is a clause so we have relied on the Lacombe Express. There is a clause in the Act that allows a municipality by bylaw to pass another form, which Lacombe has done. And so we have identified our website as our main advertising, but we are using both at this time to cover both bases, I guess. Sometimes, one might go down or not. So with both, we feel comfortable that the public hearings are advertised. Thank you.
Coordinator Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Councillor Ross, also, we did receive some feedback during the survey that echoed your sentiments on the use of the newspaper going forward in terms of cost and use. But it was also mentioned that the paper may serve some demographics that certain populations would still be reading the newspaper more so than others, I guess. So.
Thank you. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Thank you for bringing this back. When I saw the agenda, I was like, holy, that was fast. And I don't 4 months. I think that is actually pretty fast. So I appreciate this and the effort. The statistics from council members, I think you don't have to be a mathematician. Only 4 people filled it out. So that's good, I guess. And I think there was one question in there that it asked us, and I apologize, I'm scrolling back up now. It was just about whether or not we thought it was reaching the target audience. And I wrote not sure, because I guess in some of these instances, I truly have no idea. And I think, and it's not to say it's easy for you guys to track that. I don't expect you to go knock on doors asking if they read the letter they got in the mail. But if there is any forms of these notifications that we can receive feedback or to say whether or not it reached them, I think that would be valuable for us. And thank you to administration for filling out their surveys. I agree with a lot of your insights from senior administration managers and directors from your survey. And I definitely don't want to see our streets just flooded with signage and just temporary signage, but I do appreciate that we can be effective with that, and it can be linking them to other resources with the QR codes and such. The radio is difficult, the newspaper is difficult. Yeah, whether 1,800 out of 5,000 customers are receiving the utility bills, again, this is such a difficult operation to make sure that we are meeting everybody where they are. And so I appreciate people taking the time to look into this. And I was also pleased to see the information in your slideshow about the rec assessment and the social needs, just highlighting communication. And one of your solutions for the hub center, I'm really grateful to see that. And I think that doesn't just benefit us, it benefits the entire community. And so I'm looking forward to seeing this. And so I hope people didn't think I was being overly critical of their work and their existing work. And this is just coming with an ask to always be slightly improving. And I'm grateful for this. And I think that's the case. Is I didn't want you guys to come back with a whole new system and say, this is the way we're doing it now. We can just incrementally improve constantly. So thank you.
Thank you. At first glance, it's pretty easy for some to conclude that there, in fact, were only 4 respondents. Was that in fact the case?
Mayor Creasy, there was 4 councillor respondents, and we had 7 managers and members of CLT as well.
Okay, so for a total of 11 that were considered in those numbers. Very good, thank you. Appreciate that clarification. And Councillor Connick, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a couple of comments and then a question. Thank you for all your work in this, Coordinator Vaughn. In my time on council, of course, we've come a long ways with the advent of social media and how that's changed how we receive information. I am one that is loath to use social media. I grew up on the newspapers. I'm one of the few who maybe reads the Express yet, but I think that's one avenue. I don't think you can pull back on stuff. I think you still have to maintain those old platforms and embrace the new. So I would be sad. Well, I'm already sad that the newspaper has declined. And I mean, the Edmonton Journal used to be this big, and now it's 3 pages too now. So it's unfortunate, but so I'd like to see all avenues continue to be looked at. I think it's much like snow removal, our next item on the agenda. We're never going to get it perfect, but as long as we're trying to improve, trying to get better at it, that's all we can do. You're always going to be people who say, well, I never heard this and never heard that, or you can't reach everyone. So long as we're trying to do that, that's all we can do. My question has to do with the community connector platform. Will that be something, and maybe that's too cost prohibitive, but I'd love to see an app, just an app on my phone. I could punch, maybe that's too much money. I'd love to see an app where you could just hit it and then it would just give you everything about Lacombe and what's going on. Maybe that's something for the future. I don't know, but those are my questions. Thank you.
Mayor Creasy, may I?
Certainly.
Councillor Connick, without revealing too much out of an upcoming memo, we have done some preliminary market research on what that may look like. An app or some sort of platform might be suitable, but it would be part of the project going forward to find what would reach the most amount of people most effectively. And yeah, that'll be at council's discretion at a future date.
So given council's recent trip to Ottawa, please tell me that we will not be using the same supplier as the federal government does for their apps. Had to say it. Everybody was thinking it. CEO Gowdy, you had some input in the last one that.
Sorry, just the same thing, that what we've looked at and our research has shown that an app is nice, and there is a portion of the populace that will download apps to their phone, but actually the biggest portion wants to go to a website and not actually have to download the whole thing. So we would look for dual ability.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I really appreciate that we're looking at this again. So also thank you to Councillor Dallas for sort of initiating that conversation again. Obviously, the communication landscape has changed like it's so fast how it's changing. It's hard to keep up, but we have to try and keep up. So we need to make adjustments. So I appreciate what we're trying to do here. And therefore, in the spirit of that, I'd like to get some motions on the floor. I'd like to move that council directs administration to move forward with the signage inventory and review for council's consideration.
Thank you. That was one question that I actually had for Coordinator Vaughn. I just want to know exactly what is it that we're after here with this inventory, or what information are we hoping to glean to help us make some additional decisions?
Mayor Creasy, I think it's somehow we want to formalize our methodology behind any signage in the community. I would say within the survey, there was mixed results, kind of relating back to what Councillor Ded. We don't want too much, but we also don't want too little, right? So I think finding every use we have, so creating that inventory, and then creating certain set of standards for how we implement signage going forward and what we do now as well.
Okay, I suppose I could be on board with that. I too don't want to see an overabundance of signs in our streets. I'm a pretty strong advocate of trying to consolidate the signage that we have now, moving some of the signage onto similar signposts or light posts, whatever that kind of thing is. It creates such a clutter and eyesore, and quite frankly, it's difficult for parks to mow around posts and that kind of thing. It's just, yeah, sometimes less is better, and I think signage is one of those. I appreciate them being effective and accurate and up to date, but this is not just a sheer quantity thing.
I think that would be the needle we'd be looking to thread, is the sweet spot there. Yeah.
Thank you. And such is the way with communication. It's always a moving target. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll also be supporting this. I like the idea of reviewing what we're doing and looking at it. I thought Councillor Connick was going to recommend electronic sign there for a moment, but he didn't. I don't understand that. So I will be supporting this, and I look forward to the review.
Do we have any more input for the motion before us? Everybody's clear on the motion? Would you like it read back? No, we're all good. Please proceed to vote then. So it looks like that one is supported unanimously for the inventory and review for signage. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I wouldn't be opposed if council was able to bring back a signage inventory and review that maybe involved a digital or live sign, as per Councillor Gullickson's interest there. And as I said previously, that I was maybe a little too hastily against it in the original location proposed by him, but I do appreciate the value of reviewing that again. So thank you. But also make the motion that council directs administration prepare an updated planning and development public consultation policy for council's consideration.
Doesn't like there's a bunch of input there, so I'm going to throw this out there. In the past, I've suggested certainly we have an obligation to inform the public as is required by the MGA. However, I think one significant part that we fall short is we certainly meet the obligations of that as required. However, when we are giving land locations and whatnot, we need to make sure that the civic address is, or local landmarks, that kind of thing, because there is precious few times when anybody in the public genuinely understands what we're trying to get the point across. I realize it fulfills the MGA obligation, but I think we can do better and genuinely inform the public. And the room went silent. So if there's nothing additional, we will proceed to vote. With regards to the updated planning and development public consultation policy, I believe that was unanimous as well. In support? Thank you. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd like to move that last motion there, that council directs administration to bring forward a community connector platform for council's consideration. This one is particularly interesting to me. I've actually had numerous conversations with various organizations about this. For example, the chamber has sort of looked at that a little bit. There was some mumblings around FCSS. Even ECHO has talked about this at our table. So this is definitely something that there's a need for. One concern, of course, is capacity and being able that it's sustainable, that it truly will remain current information that'll be kept up. So I really look forward to seeing what this proposal looks like, but so moved.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments on this subject? Very good. Go ahead and vote. The community connector looks like it follows suit in that it was supported unanimously as well. Thanks, everyone. Director Alderson, you've been waiting patiently for item 6.2, the 2024-2025 snow clearing report. Seems like an odd thing to discuss now, but unfortunately, it's not going to be too long, and this will be in full force. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. Snow and ice is not new to me. I've been in the snow and ice control for the last 10 years. So I'm presenting on probably one of the warmer days in the summer, as you said, Mayor Creasy, about this 2024 to 2025 snow and ice and winter delivery service summary. So I'm going to start off with some stats, snow stats. We had 22 snow events last year, totaling 72 centimeters of snow. So we had a heavier snowfall in November, which we had around 29 centimeters in November, and the rest fell with, throughout the rest of the winter. February and March were the least amount of snow, which had 5 centimeters each. I'll turn to the road section. We had a lot of freeze thaw events, which we had 49 days of sanding. We had 47 days of snow clearing. Priority 1 and 2 clearing, we had 24 operational days there. Our residential program this year, we completed our first residential removal program, and we did it in 23 days. So that was under our target. We still have a struggle with our priority 2 clearing, priority 2 road clearing. They exceeded the 96-hour time limit, which was approximately 120 hours. So we looked back over the trend of the last 3 years and found it was still at around 120 hours. So there's some staging issues with our new shop. It's a little farther away from the rest of the city. So that was part of the logistics portion of that. We're looking for some options this year with some contracted services and use of some overtime. And additional to that, we have a few more roads that we're making priority 2. So it's going to add to that complexity. So we're also making changes in priority 3. We're splitting that up, which I'll get to in a little bit. We're going to reevaluate this coming up year and come to council for the next council review for our snow and ice to see if we can tweak some options in that. So our parks team, they cleared the downtown, school access walkways, outdoor skating rinks, and city-owned sidewalks and trails. We had our storm ponds, Granite Lake and Royal Oak, as well as the outdoor multiplex rinks there. We cleared and flooded them before each weekend, 2 to 3 times a week. We've flooded them as well and swept them daily when they were in use. So we had some warm fall. This last fall was warm, and we used low ground pressure contracted equipment to reduce the risk of going through the ice when we had to clear off the snow off the ice, just to get the ice to freeze thicker to get our skaters on the storm ponds. So some of the winter enforcement stats, we issued 20 removal tickets, 5 towing tickets, 4 sidewalk clearing tickets, and we had some volunteer compliance to relocating in 80 cases. So that was a huge up from last year. Our financial review from 2024, we were just under $130,000, where our budget is 200,000. And as of June 1st of this year, we're sitting at 84,000 for actual contracted use. So our recommended policy amendments for this coming up year, some updated on the map, change in North Star Drive to a priority 2, and then Telford Crescent around the school, and 46th Street with Alberta Health Services in the library section on the south end. So we're proposing to split priority 3 into 2 3A and 3B. So we're going to lessen the trigger on 3A to 6 centimeters with a 72-hour target. And those will include our local collector roads and gridded residential roads in the downtown area. So they're such as Lincoln Park Boulevard, Elizabeth Park Boulevard, those type of roads. And 3B will be remaining the same, the 12-centimeter trigger with a 24-day target. So an estimated cost for one cycle of the 3A program would be around just over $9,000 for that removal. We're in our park section, we were going to update priority 1 to including outdoor skating services. Move from priority 4. So it comes to the conclusion of my report, and the administration is recommending that council directs administration to make the amendments to the snow clearing policy 32/211.01 2025 PO for the 2025-26 winter season. I'm able to answer any questions.
Appreciate that report. I know we don't have that information, but part of an indication of a job well done, I think, is public input. Anecdotally, there were far fewer complaints generated this year, which perhaps isn't the most accurate way, but it's certainly an indicator of overall public perception, if nothing else, of the road conditions. I think in that regard, it was well done. I appreciate your crews working towards policy. On the one priority, you fell short, you said a little bit, but I think it's equally as important with the number of complaints that were generated being down speaks highly as well. So overall, well done. I heard nothing but positive input. Nah, that's not fair to say nothing, but the vast majority was positive input about snow removal this year. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Forgive me if I didn't understand it correctly. Yeah, I guess I should start there too. The snow removal seemed to go very well this year. I think unfortunately we are also victims of just when that snow comes and how much comes at once. And we didn't get that same as 2 years ago when in November we got hit with a whack of, if my memory serves me correctly. But regardless, the city looks great overall with the snow removal. My one question was around Crana Lake. You were saying here that it's going to be elevated to a priority 1. Is that correct? Is that the actual ice surface, or what are you recommending there?
Yeah, the skating surfaces will be done as a priority 1 instead of priority 4 after everything else is complete. So we're upping that priority.
Okay, thank you. May I follow up?
Certainly.
Just to comment, because I did send in a question regarding Crown Lake, because it seemed to be different than any other year. And apparently you had a contractor do it this year or something. Is that correct? But it was subpar, unfortunately, the ice at Christmas. And that's how I got on council, was when I complained about stuff that happened around Christmas in the city. And Crown Lake, we had a lot of people out there skating and the surface wasn't super great, but I do know it's natural ice. And we are, again, there was water sitting in places. So there was lots of problems there that you don't normally have, but I would prefer a bigger loop and yeah, just a bit better removal of debris.
CEO Gowdy.
So we hear you. It was it was really warm, and then we got that big dump of snow in November. And so it made it difficult to actually get sufficient thickness until our crews could get on there. It is natural ice, but often we flood it. We have actually an outdoor Zamboni type thing too. But there was just some ice thickness issues in areas on the pond that were challenging this year. And so we're looking to bring in some of this low pressure equipment when that happens in the future.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd like to also say, I think the snow clearing was great this year. I had no complaints, 0. And I was going to complain about the picking the snow up, but I won't do that. Because it was fine. It worked out good, and the cost wasn't as great as I thought it would be. I do have a question regarding the surpluses. Is there a reserve for the snow clearing that it goes into for the next year when we get the big dump to cover the cost?
Not specific to snow clearing. It would be your general operating reserve, but as you can see from the 5-year, we're generally under. 2022 being the one exception, but even in that case, we were over by $20,000. So we're fortunate here in Lacombe that typically we end the year with a surplus thanks to a variety of factors, and so we haven't seen the need to set up a specific reserve for this yet.
Can I?
Certainly.
Yeah. And to Crown Lakes, I think that has been one of the best things that we've done is Crown Lake. I think it's well used, and it's a great part of our community now, and you would have a hard time taking it away. I know that. So I appreciate all the work you're doing there and moving it up to priority 1.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm hoping this trend of continuing to underspend on snow clearing remains. I loathe spending money on snow clearing. But I know a large number of our community find value in it, so we'll continue to support it. I'm super grateful for the inclusion of the signage for sidewalk inspections and that enforcement. I think that that's beneficial to our community, and I think. I truly see value in that, and I'm hoping that helps support our administration and our bylaw enforcement officers, and doesn't create issues versus just. Well, and I'm sure random enforcement does happen, but at least this way, it is really hard to argue with someone when you saw a sign out saying that we were going to be checking. So I'm grateful for that. And I'll just make the motion that council directs administration to make the recommended amendments to the snow clearing policy 32/211.01 2025 PO for the 2025-2026 winter season.
Thank you, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I want to echo for sure the enforcement around sidewalks in particular. It's really hard to travel in this community. If you're by foot, it's quite treacherous, especially for seniors or people that have accessibility issues. So I was ecstatic to see those signs go up. So that was, and I got a lot of good feedback from people that care about this kind of thing on that. So I just wanted to pass that on. I did have a question about the outdoor ice services. I noticed that the LMC was not mentioned, the courtyard. And I do get periodic questions now. It was quite obvious this past year that it just was not seasonably appropriate for that. And of course, as was the case last year, is that something that we are going to see again in a year that is cold enough?
I see administration all jumping towards their microphones and that, so we'll send it right up the top and go to CAO Gowdy.
It's been challenging. We did try some regrading. I actually think we're going to have to look at some sort of artificial turf type thing if that's the desired service level. And I'm the same. I think it was a wonderful addition to the community. I get comments about it all the time. We kind of wanted to see through the plaza development this year and then look at if that's the next priority for the DARP committee. Then we would bring back a capital project to make that improvement. But unfortunately, we had really hoped to be able to make it work with the existing sod there, and it just has not turned out to be feasible to do so.
We have a motion on the floor by Councillor Dallas, correct? Did you get to read that back for the, we're on the same page here? Coordinator Billabona, please.
The motion by Councillor Dallas is that council directs administration to make the recommended amendments to the snow clearing policy 32-211.01 2025 PO for the 2025-2026 winter season.
Appreciate that. One last opportunity for input. Please, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I echo the snow removal completely. At first, couple years of this term, I was, okay, it's like $100,000. But as I've always been advocating for community standards, I think it was kind of hypocritical when you have people that have put the significant amount of time and effort to maintain their lawns that snow was plowed onto. I strongly support the removal. I think it was, for the most part, extremely well accepted. And I think it also addressed some drainage areas just to completely remove it as well. And I think long term, I think it was maybe easier for Parks and Recs and Public Works to have it just completely gone as well. So, but I strongly support it, and it was, I think it was a very well accepted, and I think you try to do with what we can with our up and down weather. It would be easy if it was stayed one consistent temperature for everybody to manage, but unfortunately it's not that way. So, but kudos to everybody. Thank you.
Very good. That seems to be it. So let's proceed to vote. So for the snow clearing policy item, that is unanimously in favor as well. That brings us to item 6.3 under request for decision. On May 26, Councillor Gullickson brought forward a notice of motion. And this would be an opportunity to read it into the record for us, please, Councillor Gullickson, and speak to it as you wish.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. The motion is that council directs administration to stockpile any recycled asphalt millings from this year's capital program at the Michener Park for use in a future project to improve the surface there for public parking and events such as the farmers market. And I think this, I've been looking at the surfaces around town where it's been used, like up at the soccer fields. It's a much better surface than what's down at Michener Park now. And certainly at the public workshop, I was there today and looked at that surface. It is really good. And if we ever got to that point, I would be extremely happy. I think this product would be ideal for there, improve the surface for the farmers market and the people coming there to play ball and different things. The whole parking area would be improved. So I'd like to see it used there, and any trails that we extended from there could be also, it could be used on that. I know it's used on golf courses all the time, and it makes a fairly nice trail if it's packed properly. So it certainly could be used for other things other than the parking lot. So I hope this motion passes, and in the future we use that material on that parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. And just before council begins their debate on this issue or this topic, there's some just information I want to bring forward. One with respect to the millings, this year's millings within the Capital Works program. Every year we look at our stockpile of millings and decide whether we want to retain the millings from the program or indicate in our contract that the contractor can take them themselves. The millings are, recycled as part of their own asphalt making process as well, and so there's value to those millings for the contractor as well. And in some cases, that offsets some costs for us. This year, when we made that consideration, we did decide that the contractor could retain those millings. And so, as our Capital Works program contract is written today, the contractor would owns the millings, has the rights to those millings. That said, we did look at the costs to quote unquote buy them off the contractor, retain them ourselves, and the cost of that nearly offsets the cost of the haul back to their plant. And so, from a cost perspective, the retention of these millings is a wash. So we wouldn't say that should be a factor in this decision today. They did indicate that while they're milling, they would want to have like free and clear and safe access from the milling site to the stockpile location. That means that the site would have to be kind of open and clear generally all the time. Milling contractors are notoriously very, very busy, and they're moved all around their various job sites. And so it's very difficult for us to pin down an exact location or time to do that. And so for that reason, if there's any events happening in the parking lot or any usage of the parking lot at the same time, that would make it unsafe for hauling trucks to go back and forth during that time. And we don't have any of that coordinated or really organized today. And so the parking lot is well used today. And then finally, I would just say that the use of millings or the creation of millings, I'll say, is imminent. Our Capital Works program is well underway. Signs are up. We have road work that's beginning very soon. So we're paying very close attention to council tonight and look forward to listening to the deliberations and council's decision.
Thanks, Director Thompson. Just for some clarification here, because of the wording of the notice of motion, it says millings from this year's capital program would suggest that there is a belief that there is cost savings in utilizing these millings directly as ones we already have stockpiled. For me, it's more important that the project gets completed. Whether or not the millings come from this year's program or not is kind of irrelevant to me, but it wasn't my motion either. I'm just wondering, are there truly cost savings in trucking them to the site where they're going to be used and then stockpiling them there, or stockpiling them on the site that we have adjacent to Public Works now and utilizing them at a time that is that's most cost effective and utilizing them from there? There's so many factors involved here with trucking and whatnot that it becomes a little messy and not quite so easy to just look at it and try and make an educated guess, so to speak, as to what is the proper route to go. So just try and shed a little light on this for us, if you could, please.
Yeah, I think that and thanks for the opportunity to clarify. I think that I'm reading this motion just at its face value, stockpiling the millings using this year's capital program at the Michener Park. So that would result in this contractor this year taking those millings, and instead of letting them go to the contractor, they would be diverted to a stockpile location that would be identified at Michener Park. And so with respect to the motions on the floor, I would say that that would be the most, if this year, that is the most efficient way to get those millings over to the Michener Park, is by hauling them once, loading them up into a milling truck, and having them taken over and stockpiled. If we were looking for the most optimal way to do this, we would have a loader on site or a grader on site. The truck would not be stockpiling them, they'd be dropping them in piles, where they would be then immediately spread out. And then as new piles were brought forward, then they'd be spread out and just kind of utilized as we go, so that the site could be, I guess, brought into full usage almost immediately. There's some standby costs associated with that to have equipment on site, some coordination on when that would happen, but all of this could be coordinated. Today it is not coordinated, and so hope that kind of gets closer to your answer that you wanted, but I'll let you clarify and I'll have you respond.
It does offer, it's helpful as far as standby costs and whatnot. We do have graders, we do have qualified operators. Is this not something that they would take on or could take on relatively short turnover with those millings? Or is this something that we would only contract out?
Yeah, it's a good question, and our staff certainly love doing that kind of special projects. It's kind of fun new projects. They don't do it every day, and so I think they would be the first to admit they're not as proficient as a road building contractor who does this all the time. And so when we look at the Public Works building, it's still fresh. It looks pretty good. We agree that that turned out really well. We look at other projects that we've done in the parking lot in the Northwest Rec area. Looks good. Depends on the millings, depends on the product, depends on how hot it is out. And so is it something we're capable of doing? Probably we can spread that out. Is it going to look like the Public Works building? Maybe. They're just not as proficient. And so there'd be maybe a little less, may not look as packed or as finished as what we would expect from the professional contractors that we hire.
Fair comment. For those who do it every day, of course, they better be better at it. That's fair. Okay. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. As Councillor Gullickson knows, I always like to agree with him, but maybe not. What I do agree with is that maybe we need a better surface at Michener Park. I am not in support of millings. I think there's just a number of pieces that are missing for that spot. First of all, a pile would be just not be unsightly for a place that we are hoping to have a farmer's market going on. Secondly, have we talked to the farmers market people? Do they want this kind of surface? But the most important piece is I was walking through the parking lot on the west side and it stinks. And it was a warm day. I said to my husband, are you smelling it? I'm smelling the millings. So a lot of these places that we use millings, people aren't standing on. Whereas where we are having our farmers market, they are standing on it. Some of the vendors will be there hours. And they'll be on a surface that, because millings are the edges, it's not a nice clean surface, you smell the tar. And I'm not in support of that smell in a place that we're selling food items and people are standing on it for many hours on end. So sorry, I'm not in favor of this.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. So the great big pile of millings we have now, is that all spoken for? Is that all going to different projects?
No, that the millings that we have stockpiled now are generally available for city use today, including this or any other project.
Okay, thank you. I know I spoke with Councillor Gullickson about this in Ottawa already, and I support the motion in principle, except the part again, as the mayor alluded to, stockpiling it at Michener. I don't know where you would do that effectively, that it wouldn't cause an eyesore, as Councillor Hoopster alluded to, or anything like that. I'm not opposed to the idea of stockpiling at our current site and then using it there at some point, but the way it's worded here, I don't know where we would put it at Michener, to be honest. I don't know how that would work, so.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think it would be an improvement. It's not ideal, but it's also not going to cost $500,000 to pave it. I thought that was around what number was going to be around 400,000. But I think common sense would be if the millings aren't committed in the contract, and if they're moved to Michener, I would think that it would be a priority to deal with the unsightliness, to make the effort to apply it within reasonable time so it's not an eyesore. So I think we have some very competent staff that could easily, or possibly in the best case scenario, when the trucks are coming, they spread it. And that's with some coordination and communication that could be applied at the same time, which saves the city more money. Or do we, as the trucks, use our own trucks to go collect them and spread them as well? But I think it's an improvement. I think they're less dusty. I would hope that as they pack, maybe that smell would go away. I'm sorry, I'm not, it's doesn't, I've heard feedback from some of the vendors that they want an upgrade. This is an upgrade as far as less dust. I would hope that the amount of time the Councillor Gullickson's been at the farmer's market, that this is the feedback from the farmer's market. So anyways, I will support it, but I would hope that we could coordinate it so it's not unsightly, because it's just, to me, it's, anyways, thank you.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I've really struggled with this one because there's definitely arguments to be made either way. Our current, I know you said that we don't have a current plan for those millings that we have right now, but what is something that we typically would use that for, like, on a regular basis? Obviously, we just did a large yard, and prior to that, we did a larger, but is that all we ever use those for, is just to do those large projects? Or is there something smaller that we typically do with those stockpiles? Just help me understand the purpose of those generally.
In addition to those, we would also use them in some cases in lanes that are typically more flat or have rutting issues that tends to help preserve the shape of the lane for a little bit longer. In those areas where we do have millings, we try to use more millings to top them off. It can be used as aggregate in various situations. Typically won't use them on asphalt because they don't hold up as well. So it's really anywhere where drainage and rutting and kind of muddiness, it becomes a nuisance or becomes a problem. That's typically what we're using those millings for, in addition to preserving them for special projects that do arise.
And when we do a large surface like a parking lot with millings, how does that differ from a traditional pave job? Like, could you sort of break that down as far as, obviously the expense is going to be different, but what about the length of time it will hold up before you need to do X, Y, Z to it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And we brought forward a report kind of outlining the different uses of millings maybe last year sometime, and its applications. But generally speaking, asphalt is what you see on the road. It has a gravel base. It's got a drainage kind of engineering involved. It's going to last 20 years roughly before it's seen its full life cycle. It's what people are familiar with on their roads. Millings look like almost like a gravel, like a dark gravel, and on a hot day they can be applied and packed, and they'll look like a compacted gravel that generally holds its shape better than loose gravel. And there's different binders and things that can be applied at the same time to make the millings last longer. But in terms of their lifespan, they're a shorter lifespan, but they're also more malleable, so they can be touched up in a way that an asphalt road that's been rutted can't be touched up. And so there's pros and cons. And so it's a matter not so much about what's better. It's about what product you need for the situation and what level of service you're willing to accept for that particular area.
One of the concerns, of course, with the farmer's market location is accessibility. So for example, being able to have, whether it's wheelchairs or strollers or that type of thing, be able to operate easier than the gravel. Also things like mud and things like when it's poor weather. So it would be the opinion that the millings would address that, like it would be a vast improvement for accessibility then and weather.
I don't know if it'd be a vast improvement. It depends on the baseline, what you're comparing it to, but there's a range in which what it would be really good or not much different than if you look at gravel. Same thing, there's an big overlap between really good, well-packed gravel and say medium range millings are probably the same, you know, but you can probably get better with well-packed, well done, a really good job on millings with great product could probably be better than the best gravels. I'll say it this way: the best millings and installation can probably outperform, from an accessibility point, the best laid gravel. But there's a big overlap between those two things, and so if accessibility is the main driver, then we would look at something like an asphalt. If accessibility was paramount and the top thing that we need to deal with, we would want to look at something more like a concrete that has a more of a smooth, stable surface that we can look at ensuring it's textured or anything like that. So it really depends on the level of service we're striving for, and well, we can recommend the best solution for that.
Thank you for the answer. I guess I would put that back to Councillor Gullickson then, because it is my understanding in any conversations that we've had about that parking lot, that it is primarily accessibility, and then second is like weather. So, you know, mud and dust even for that matter, I guess. And I'm just not 100% convinced that this is actually going to address either of those adequately and for a cost. So I guess I would just put that back to Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you for that. I'll give you an opportunity to think about that for a moment, Councillor Gullickson. I think that CEO Gowdy had some information to add as well.
So the best surface we've ever gotten out of using millings, in my opinion, in my time here, was actually the road in Missioner Park that goes back to Les Walker. And so when it first went in, it was packed. We used oil, and it looked, I guess, at day one, like a low-grade asphalt, pretty similar to asphalt. And so that level of improvement would offer a significant improvement for accessibility. However, I would also caution that within 5 years, we got a lot of complaints from people that were like, you did a bad job on that asphalt out there. It's breaking down. Why didn't you use a real product? And very quickly, we've had to touch it up and try and fix things. Most of the uses where we would employ millings now are like a fancy gravel, where it's basically just a mud-free gravel. It is very good at that, being dust-free, mud-free. But it wouldn't offer much benefit if you were pushing a stroller through that. I mean, you can go out to the Northwest Rec area parking lot and see that. It wouldn't be much better accessibility. So there is a range from dumping it in spot and grading it out, all the way to turning it into like an asphalt-like product. We did have those. We had 6 different options. I'm just looking at our memo from last year that Director Thompson referenced. And so it goes from everything from sort of that bottom end all the way up to actually it talks about pavement as well. At that time, it was the top end cost, which was full paving of the lot, was about $500,000. So a little bit more now, with a bottom end cost of about $40,000. So you can see the range from kind of that bottom end, the cost matches it. You know, you've got a factor of 10 between the two. And I think the the end product actually, I would also say varies from something that's not great for public to be walking around on as like a hanging out surface, all the way up to, yeah, a paved surface out there, which would be great. I think that would be a big improvement for the area. But to your first question, I think you're looking at significant maintenance or repair within 5 years from a millings type application, where a proper pavement structure would be 15 to 20.
Which, given the costs involved, would almost be the same number per year over those 20 years as it does to install the less expensive product, which is, it's not asphalt, it's dust control and better in a light rain. There's no question about it. But there was a question, I believe, posed to Councillor Gulson, if you'd care to address that or whatever you choose.
Thank you. Through to Councillor Hibbs. Yeah, I mean, the last time I was at Farmers Market, which is raining, it was a mess, totally. And the accessibility part of it, would it be better marginally? That isn't the idea of that. I mean, I think the Farmers Market would like to see a surface that doesn't turn into a mud hole. If you want to put new gravel on it, sure, they'd be happy with that too. What would the cost of that be? Probably is more than our millings would be, because you have the same spreading and you have to buy the product. So I just thought it was a way to use this product to improve that surface, to get it to a reasonable state where it's not a mud hole, and with a slight improvement to accessibility, because it would be graded and smoother and a little bit better. If they did it like the public workshop, I was up there today and looked at it, it would be a big improvement to it. It is very nice. I don't know if you've gone and looked at it or not. Well, yeah, that would be really a nice improvement. Would it be ruts and stuff? Absolutely. Can they be fixed? They can. A lot easier than asphalt. And does asphalt have other issues like potholes and so on? Yes, it does. So you have an ongoing maintenance thing with that also. So I think that this is a way of upgrading that surface without the extra expense of putting new gravel on it. Or we can just leave them there and let them deal with the mud. I mean, I'm up there probably 3 more times this summer. I'm sure I'll get rained on again.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I guess I just want to add, let's not forget what Director Thompson said, is that the area is not actually available to do this. We're sort of ignoring that piece. Like he was saying that the trucks are going to come in, but what if there's a ball tournament? We haven't really addressed that piece. That area is not available to have every other day a truck come in. I don't know how often the millings would come through, but this isn't even practical from that point of view, if I heard Director Thompson correctly.
I don't think there's any question that would take some coordination for sure. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think we could sit here all night and discuss. I think right now, I think I'd like to provide some benefit to the farmers market. Millings, I think, would be less muddy. Would be a slight improvement over gravel. I guess I did bring up, I think last time we discussed this over grading it and using calcium chloride but that, I don't know if that completely gets rid of the mud when it rains, but it is a very firm surface. We can bash out, right now it's short-term gain, but it's not a long-term solution. And ideally it'd be pavement, but it's another $500,000 when I think there's going to be a very interesting budget come fall with several issues coming forward. And I think that's something in the future to discuss, but I think it would be a short-term improvement. But I would maybe, if Director Thompson can say, if there's calcium chloride, is there any benefit of that as well?
Director Thompson.
It's something that I'm, I guess, not as familiar with from a dust perspective. The county uses the product routinely. I think it gets, I understand it's kind of sticky. It's a kind of a gel. like product that's applied to the roadways there. I'm not sure if it would be, it's really, from what I know about it, it can be smelly initially when applied, and it can be kind of sticky for pedestrians or people walking on it. It's something we'd have to talk to the county about and understand better. It's just not something we use in the city as often, so I'm not as familiar with it.
So for me, I have no problem with millings being used at this location. I do have a problem with the stockpiling portion of this in that area. I don't think that would be a look that we would want. Yeah, I do appreciate the upgrade in the surface. Is it asphalt? No, but there's also a corresponding much lower cost too. So I don't know if we're going to change anything. We had this discussion, how many months ago has it been now? But the issues certainly still exist. Any additional input on the motion as presented, 6.3? Please proceed to vote. And this item is approved by a margin of 5-2. Councillors Hoekstra and Hibbs voting against. So we do have a single in-camera item. Later, we'll just briefly touch on the meetings forthcoming. All our regular council meetings here in council chambers at 5:30 p.m. And the first one is June 23rd, then on July 14th, and again on August the 11th. And unless I'm mistaken, I think that concludes the majority of the business, just the in-camera item remaining. Correct? Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make the motion to move in camera.
Thank you. It is 7:57 currently. Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimously in favor. Once we get the indication from Mr. Tomnick.